Evening, everybody. My name is Sean Ellithorpe, and I will be presenting my capstone project titled Increasing Efficiency in Ultrasound Workflows. Now, the goal of my project is to improve the workflow within the ultrasound department at Evergreen Health Medical Center. And I've been an ultrasound tech at Evergreen for about 5 years, so there's some things I'd like to see changed really to improve the department and improve patient care. As an overview, we're going to review the current workflow. Then we'll identify potential sources of error, propose a solution in the form of implementation of a new software, and then justify that new software mainly through financial means. So let's take a look at our current workflow. To start, the ultrasound tech takes the images during the exam as well as the measurements required for that specific exam. They then write all of that information handwritten onto a paper worksheet. This is then faxed to the radiologist. The images are sent digitally, and then the radiologist takes that faxed paperwork and the images, and together with those in mind, makes a final dictation for the ordering provider. So going back to the start, the ultrasound exam, we're going to assume that for this project, the images are up to par, the sonographer has good skill level, and they were able to get all the measurements with no issue. Moving on to the write-up phase of our workflow, this is actually a picture of where we do most of our write-ups, one of our workrooms at Evergreen. It's a little tight, but it's where we write our worksheets up. This is an example of one of our worksheets, one of our more simple exams, an abdomen limited. And you can see there's lots to write, but really there's only 4 measurements on this worksheet. It's a pretty quick, relatively easy worksheet to fill out. Now, some other exams, such as lower extremity arterial Dopplers, have 40 or more measurements. And that's just when they're normal. When they're abnormal, it can be more. So you can imagine there's a lot of room for error there when filling this entire thing out. Here's an example, a little bit messy, hard to read. This is, a big chance for error. And this is really our first big opportunity for error. Sonographers will make mistakes. We're going to write stuff in the wrong place. We're going to transpose numbers. Our handwriting is not always going to be pretty. So there's some room for error there. When we move to our next step in the process, the exam send, there's really no issues with sending the image digitally to the radiologist. The really big issue lies in faxing the paperwork. This is our second big opportunity for error, and it has to do all with the fax machine. Faxes are just totally unreliable. They fail, they take too much time, and really they just provide a degraded copy for the radiologist to read. Let's look at an example of that. This is an abdomen limited worksheet where the sonographer had written no obvious stones in common bile duct. You see that down there encircled in red. When we take a look at the fax copy, you can immediately see all the fax lines and just overall low quality of the worksheet. However, even more importantly, somehow that important note of no obvious got totally wiped out on this fax. So now it just reads stones in common bile duct. So we went from no stones to stones, and that's a wildly different outcome for this patient. Luckily, the radiologist caught this, saw the discrepancy there, and was able to talk with the sonographer. But if it hadn't been for them, and this got read out as stones in common bile duct, that patient could have gone for further testing, intervention, who knows what. Not a good situation. The final step in our process is the radiologist dictating, and radiologists are all about efficiency, so they utilize voice recognition software where they speak directly into a microphone for their dictation, as well as transcription services to manually write out large amounts of data for them. And this is really where our third opportunity for error arises. Voice recognition has a baseline level of error, and while it's efficient, there's sound-alike errors and other things that can cause issues. As well as transcription services also have a lot of error involved. One of our radiologists at Evergreen, Dr. David Kim, estimates that about half of his exams that come back from transcription still contain error, so he proofreads everything. Overall, there's just a lot of chances for error that can happen in our workflow. And in a perfect world, we would get rid of paper worksheets, we would end the use of faxes, and we'd have just an overall smoother flow of data all the way from the ultrasound exam to the radiologist dictation. Luckily, there's actually some solutions out there that can do all this. And the one that I chose was a product by GE called Viewpoint. And this streamlines ultrasound workflow through digital data transfer and uses digital worksheets, and it also uses something that's important to understand called structured report data, or SR data. Now, SR data is data with a name and a home. And you can see on this image, this ultrasound image, that measurement has the title liver length associated with it. It has a name. And when we complete this exam and go into Viewpoint, it's going to automatically flow to the section under liver length without the sonographer actually having to write it. So it has a home, it has a place to go. And this is actually what the sonographer will see. You can see all the different body areas that were scanned according to the exam and the measurement data already populating. So we save time here and we have accuracy because it automatically transfers for us. Now, once the sonographer reviews this page and thinks everything is good there, Viewpoint generates a digital worksheet, and this is for the radiologist. Now you can see there's a lot happening on this worksheet for the thyroid ultrasound, but when you compare it to a handwritten worksheet of the same exam type, I think the radiologist would definitely choose the digital worksheet because of its cleanliness and clarity. So this worksheet will get sent digitally with the images to the radiologist for dictation. Now, the even better thing is that same structured report data that started at the ultrasound machine will flow into the radiologist dictation, or at least has the ability to. So the liver length would populate without the radiologist having to use VR software or transcription to do so. So that already limits risk for error and increases the efficiency as well. They simply have to review and then add any comments they see necessary. So Viewpoint can really address a lot of the issues that we're having currently in our workflow. But everything good comes with a cost, and it's going to cost Evergreen about $82,000 to implement this software. Additionally, there's going to be $11,000 yearly that we'll have to pay for support and any software updates that come out. So how do we justify this? I think there's two ways we can look at it. One, is it going to be accepted in the workplace? And two, is it financially beneficial, which is probably the biggest thing that Evergreen would want to know. So to look at the workplace acceptance portion, I took a survey of our current process with all of our sonographers. And when asked to rate this current workflow on a scale of 1 to 10, they averaged at 4.67 out of 10. Clearly the ultrasound techs are ready for a change here. And this is actually probably one of my favorite things. If you can change one thing, I asked them, what would it be? And 14 out of 15 sonographers said, fax machines, get rid of them. And that one lone wolf there in red said, get rid of paper worksheets. So they're all on board. There's going to be no issue with implementation besides the training and things, which is part of the implementation cost and time frame. Now, talking about money, the best way to look at financial benefit, in my opinion, is to look at the potential time savings. And the sonographers would save time during write-up because they wouldn't have to write paper worksheets, as well as the fax sends. So to kind of estimate what we would save, I observed our sonographers writing up different exam types, the ones that we do most often and the ones that we have the most measurement values associated with. And on average, it takes 8.9 minutes for a sonographer to write up a paper worksheet. It's a lot of time. Now, when we look at fax, we did a couple of test runs and found that it took about 6 to 8 minutes to send a fax to the radiologist. When you compare that with a digital send, which only takes about 10 or 15 seconds, we could easily save 5 minutes on each exam by not using a fax machine. So let's talk some ballpark numbers here. If we had a 15% reduction in write-up time and saved that 5 minutes via not using fax, we would have 6.33 minutes per exam saved. And you know, at Evergreen, most of the sonographers work 10-hour shifts and do about 10 exams per day. So that's over an hour saved daily for 10 exams, just for one sonographer. And if we take that even further and apply that to the entire department, as well as multiply it by the average sonographer wage, every year the department would save $98,000 in sonographer wages, or at least that's what that time represents. I understand that it might not be realistic to assume we would cut all that time, and my coworkers would probably be upset with me if I did. So let's look at it in a little different way. If we had those same assumptions of 15% increase in efficiency with our write-up and the 5 minutes saved with fax, and just used a quarter, 25% of that newfound time to scan additional patients, the entire department would bring in a whopping $140,000 per year. That pays for Viewpoint right there. Within a year, Viewpoint is profitable. And you know what the crazy thing is GE estimates that their product will increase efficiency by 83%. And while that's a little generous, maybe my estimate of 15% is a little conservative. So you can easily do the math and see that Viewpoint is a good solution financially for Evergreen. So in conclusion, Viewpoint will bring increased revenue, increased accuracy of care, increased availability of care with the time saved, and also would make our sonographers a little more happy, myself included. A few last things I want to mention. Research methodology. The Library Media Center was extremely helpful, in particular the ScienceDirect database for looking up scholarly articles on this type of transition to data software transfer. And then 2 classes that were really helpful, Health Information Systems and Finance and Accounting, as they showed me how systems work together in the healthcare world, as well as how do you actually justify something like this. Some acknowledgments. My mentor, Steve Bradshaw, he's always been available to help me with this project. He's also my manager at Evergreen and has lobbied for me to be a part of the tuition assistance program there. And because of that, I will be graduating debt-free. So thank you to Evergreen and thank you to Steve for that. And last but certainly not least, my wife, Brittany. I love you so much. Thank you for supporting me, taking care of us and our family and our home over the past few years. Definitely couldn't have done it without you. And to everybody else, thank you so much for listening to the presentation.